Welcome back, everyone, to the Off Court Podcast, the paddle podcast covering all your paddle needs. As you know, we are your hosts. I'm Hugh. I am joined by Connor.
What's up?
Episode 19, nearing the 20s.
Yes.
We're there.
We're in the big 20s.
Yeah.
We're still teenagers, technically, in this format, but yeah.
We've done this 19 times.
Yeah, I know. It's been pretty incredible already.
Yeah,
and
crazy.
we're past the halfway point in the season, right?
Yeah.
So we started this in December, and now we're here. We're going strong, guys.
So thank you to all of you who are supporting us, whether it's since episode 1, 5, or 18, doesn't matter.
Or now.
Thank you for being here, tuning in from wherever you are, YouTube, Spotify, any other platform of your choice. Welcome back. Today we are diving into the Valladolid P2.
Yes, probably the fastest and hottest tournament we've had so far.
Yeah, incredible speed of the ball.
Yes.
It was, just a completely different style of paddle.
Yeah, noticeably, which we're going to talk about as well. But yeah, the feeling of the games were, as the person out of the duo here that loves a fast chord,
Maybe too much.
this one, I mean, look, it seems like we're transitioning out of our teenhoods into our young adulthoods, and maybe the speed of the chord like that is a little bit less juicy, and we kind of want to see a little bit more build up of points, right?
I think it gets a bit boring. Like it's just it's just too much.
It's just there's nothing for us to like sink our teeth into, not necessarily, and obviously we'll get into some of the games. Had a crazy semifinals, which felt like the game of the tournament.
Yeah,
Stupa Lebrón versus Galán.
Yeah.
With a lot of pre-existing beef and drama to set this game up perfectly. But before we get into that, let's do our little catch-up. How's everything with you, Hugh?
Not too bad. I haven't played paddle in a while. I do have a game today, which is exciting. But yeah, I mean, I haven't been playing loads, not for any particular reason, just I guess time and work and stuff.
A little hiatus, a little break. It's good to take a little break, I think, every now and then, and then you get back on the court. And it
is, I mean, whoever is living in Europe at the moment, even
there's a heat wave
from the UK.
During this episode, we're going to get progressively sweatier, I reckon. We're in a bit of a hot box at the moment. So
we're in the top floor and the heat is just trapped here.
Yes.
We've done our best to try and keep it cool before starting the episode. But yeah, so it's a bit, I mean, you're either playing late at night when the sun's already gone down, or
you're an idiot like me who can book 2 back-to-back games in the middle of the heat and
at 2 p.m.
and start blacking out halfway through and just going from there. But yeah, it is summer holiday vibes. Paddle's being played. We're watching a lot of paddle still
as well.
I'm off to Malta this week, so hopefully I want to try get a game in Malta. Any viewers from Malta? I'm not too sure actually.
Maybe.
But we'll be there.
How's the paddle scene in Malta? If anyone knows,
please let us know.
Let us know.
There are plenty of courts popped up there, but yeah, I might scope out the local competition and see where the UK paddle scene ranks up against it. But that's very exciting. Just to preface that as well, we might not have a Bordeaux P2 episode next week just because I'm away, but
might take a little break from that.
We'll have some extra content coming out. So
something
if you guys want to see, please subscribe. But really, let's get into
the
tournament. What was your initial vibes? How did you feel? What did you like? Obviously, we mentioned a little bit about the quality of paddle.
Yeah.
But overall, probably in a pretty legendary location, right?
Yeah.
Valladolid, home to a lot of paddle players there, including Arturo Coello,
home to the king. Yeah.
Went on and won the tournament himself. So it's a sweet one for Tapia and Coello because back in Argentina, Coello made a comment that it was really important for him that Tapia gets the win on his home ground. Coello, yes. And for Tapia in Argentina, and now they've switched it over, and Coello got his win kind of at home as well.
And they've defended their points from last season because they also won the Valladolid P2. But yeah, I mean, in terms of general vibes, as I said, I thought it was quite a boring tournament in general.
Yeah, I think we can say that. You know what I mean?
I think it wasn't like the most exciting in terms of from an enjoyment and a point of view. There were some like loads of like juicy moments.
Oh yeah.
As the games went on, they got better. As in like the game started 1-1, 1-1, 2-1, 2-2. It was a game that was basically the tournament of tie breaks.
Yes, essentially.
It was very difficult to break serve.
Yeah.
So many matches were decided at a tie break, either at the first set, second set.
Exactly.
So
it was like the pot starts boiling towards the end of a set, basically.
Exactly.
And everything before that was like, if they got a break point,
yeah.
there you go. That's kind of like their advantage there.
I'm also pretty sure, and I'm assuming I can even more than Santiago. Last year, if you looked at the average rally length of all the tournaments from 2024, Valladolid was the shortest one.
I'm
meaning the rallies are like super fast. Pretty sure this one's the same. I mean, Chingo was smashing from behind the line, bringing it back to his court.
When Chingo's smashing, it's like, okay, these courts are just like way too fast, maybe. Yeah. Especially from back of the court. Yeah. Like, it was kind of cool to see Chingo smash, though. But I was also like, you don't see that every tournament, right? So,
exactly. So I think in terms of like general vibes, I don't know what you thought, but I guess just to like preface the entire tournament to generalize, dominated by tie breaks, chiquitas, because you couldn't even lob Chingo because he had a smash as well in this tournament. So chiquitas trying to push the net. There was loads of pit pat.
Yes.
And it was strategies had to like adapt to that, basically trying to go for the fast lob as well.
True.
And
that's, that kind of feels a little bit lackluster after, watching like 3 or 4 games like that. And that's the style of play. But I think, maybe if the bigger picture is the variation of paddle that we get from these tournaments. I think another talking point really is, obviously as paddle fans, players, we're very good at complaining about the weather. I think playing in 40 degrees heat also affects the style of play, right? Because you're on super fast courts, high intensity, but you're also playing in really tough, like, external conditions. Even during the press conference, Galán, literally said these conditions are inhumane and unsanitary, which is,
dangerous.
It's not really like light wording, right? And even Chingotto was talking about how that, it's down to the outside of the court being black. And, when you go outside, when you leave the court for your little breaks, he can feel it, right? Yeah. And you know what I mean? It's like how, in terms of scheduling and planning and stuff like this, knowing that you're playing a tournament in the middle of Spain, in towards the end of June, how fair is it on players? Is this a whole other thing where obviously we know from the general consensus from the majority of paddle players that they want more indoor courts, right? I love the outdoor court because we get the environment, but really, at the same time, it's like I think the heat is affecting the style of paddle as well, and the quality of paddle.
The heat really affects is what I was going to say. The reason it was such a fast-paced court was, number one, the heat was super warm throughout. Yeah. And second, the altitude of Valladolid. For those of you who don't know, the center of Spain, Madrid, Valladolid, which is very close to Madrid, is like on a meseta. It's like sort of above sea level, right? Not by a lot, not like South America, like in the Andes, like Santiago or Mexico or any of these countries, but it is higher up, so that affects the ball as well. It makes it float a lot more.
It is impressive that they can like stay on these courts for that long, playing at that intensity and just like, getting it over and done with. But
we had a couple glass to glass smashes, one from Leal, I think one from Galán as well, which is, imagine many of you are paddle players as well. Imagine smash. It doesn't even matter if you're right at the net and you try and smash a ball with all your power. Yeah. For it to hit the glass and then hit your glass behind you, that's still it's
impressive.
It's pretty impressive.
I swear I didn't know if I saw it. Maybe I'm making it up. But like I swear Leal hit a smash that went over his back glass as well. Like it didn't even go glass to glass. It hit the other side of the court and it went out of that. And I saw someone being like, that was insane to see. So that, for example, is how fast these courts were. Got to the point where obviously we mentioned they're complaining about the weather conditions. It's not fair. Asking for slower bulls as well, which that didn't happen as well.
I mean, they were playing with the bull paddles, which aren't they aren't the fastest on tour, but unless you played with like a really, really slow ball that maybe could like affect the quality of play style, it doesn't really matter because of the environmental and like the court conditions. It just any ball kind of would.
Exactly.
Wouldn't help the situation.
I mean, like saying that, super hard, super fast courts affecting the quality of, the games. Not really exactly what we're used to seeing, I would say. But in terms of, the crowd experience, the people there, it's like they didn't mind that much. They didn't have a choice, but to sit outside for 3-4 hours or even longer, wearing their hats. I don't know what the hats are called.
Everyone was wearing hats.
Fans and they were hyped up. The DJ was insane. I don't know if anyone else clocked onto that, playing like hyper trance music, and I was just like, this is just overstimulating. I don't know how they sat there, but you got to props to them, man.
And cool venue. Like they were playing in the Plaza Mayor, like the main square of the town of Valladolid. With like the bells there,
which is cool. Yeah,
it's cool. It's like a sort of old kind of century old kind of town center.
Which I believe last year's tournament wasn't actually played there. So for Coello to go and win this one right there, where he probably grew up watching other.
I think it was
players
indoor
play.
Last year.
Right, I see. I wonder why.
I'm not sure.
This is fucking boiling. But yeah, you have to give props to the fans. They're out there. Obviously, we're in Spain, so it's like, one of the homes of paddle, I guess. But no, it's incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
Super cool. Fast courts. We were slightly disappointed from the quality of it. Let
us know what you guys think. This is our opinion. Let us know if you think it was too much.
Yeah.
If you like it, if you think it's good for the sport to have a tournament like this where we see players having to adapt to extreme conditions.
It's true.
Is it too extreme? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.
I think variation really. I think I'm trying to find the silver lining here.
Yeah.
Like, you can't get identical tournaments in identical conditions, right? But
it comes to a point where it's like, is it too much?
Yeah, the sport where like they're taking water breaks because they have to, like they have this like mandatory
the heat protocol.
Exactly.
Now,
they're getting lobbed on purpose. In Chingo was purposely lobbing Stupa just so the sun can get in his eyes.
And they were just doing the El Globo Llovido, which is like where they just ping it up.
And I'm like, this is at a sport at this level, like that's the tactics, like sun getting in eyes and everything like that. But it seems like we complain about the weather every time, but it's just a part of it. But maybe less outdoor tournaments is the answer to that. I don't know what tournament I would, if we reduced it and we only had a handful of outdoor tournaments. The one that sticks in my head that I was thinking would be like New Giza. Like that has to be one that stays. Yeah. Obviously the Rome Major as well, which is all outdoors.
I think Miami was. I don't know if it was indoors or outdoors. I think Miami was the perfect
conditions. Yeah, I do remember actually.
Where
it was indoor. I swear. No,
it was.
Yeah,
and
it was just like the speed of the court and everything was just like.
But
perfect.
Tournaments where players awarded for good smash, like good like when a good impact, a good technique gives you dividends. I think that's the best.
That's good. Yeah,
because if you have a bad smash or maybe not a super powerful one, that maybe then it's not as so then it's like it's more demanding in that sense.
I mean, even you were saying, even when Tapia was like, kick smashing from the back of the court, he wasn't even at like 100%.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about this now, but it's crazy.
We'll get our little highlights out the way. We have an injury, unfortunately, in semifinals. Delfi Brea picked up an injury as well, which it was shaping up to be an interesting match. Obviously, the rivals are between Triai, Brea versus Sanchez and Jose Maria, but at the end of the second set in the semifinals. I think it was a calf injury or something like that, where Brea was just like, no, let's end it here. Let's not take a risk here, which is always sad to see. And it was felt with a lot of emotion as well. You could see even Bea Gonzalez come up to her old partner.
That was a beautiful moment.
Yeah, I think.
Because I think they still are very good friends, even though they're rivals now.
Yeah.
Delfi was obviously having a really tough time with that, crying, getting a lot of emotions out, because it's not just... It wasn't pain. It's the frustration of...
That's how you go out.
That's how you go out. Also, the repercussions. If you're a professional athlete, like injuries are... they stop you from being able to work. You know what I mean? Like, and if you don't know how bad it is, and maybe you have to miss the next tournament, and you've like trained so hard, and your body doesn't allow you to play, it must be like super frustrating. You know?
I mean, you can see in her eyes, and unfortunately, and that's how it is. And hopefully, they're probably enrolled in Bordeaux, but we'll figure out literally in the next few days if she's going to be playing or not, or if it was preventative.
Hopefully,
the summer break's not that far away right now, so maybe it's like good time, I guess. We'll see anyway, but it's always a shame.
We send our love and all the best to Delfina Brea. Hopefully she
speedy
it's nothing,
recovery.
and hopefully she can have a speedy recovery.
Yeah, which is a sad note. But on a more exciting note, we really do have to cover Guerrero and Leal, who,
man.
2 tournaments in now.
Crazy.
They're explosive, sort of like way into the Rome Major last tournament after this.
A semis in a major, then a semis in a P2 as well.
Going up against, top players. Obviously, they took out Koki Yanguas, twice now.
Twice in a row, yeah.
Which we've been trying to look into it, but, Koki's also potentially like struggling with some physical restraints as well. Not really a full-blown...
And they're not playing their best paddle. It's a shame because I really like that pairing.
Yeah. But they had a great start because they made every quarters or every semis.
Yeah, they made they started the season perfectly.
That's why I wouldn't be surprised if Koki was, nursing some and not really like going full 100%. Because they dropped off very fast, man. Like it was kind of weird to see, and it's great moments like this when players like Guerrero and Leal can actually like take them on, and
But it was round 32 that Koki and Yanguas got knocked out by Leal. Guerrero.
30, they haven't had a
very
great
early on.
run.
These guys seem to be their kryptonite.
New enemies
at the moment. The new enemies.
I mean, Leal's smash is just we hyped them up a little bit last episode, but it's a great new pairing that we get to see, and we just wanted to touch on like their sort of jump,
the numbers, run us through
it. After 2 tournaments, so they picked up 1,400 points, right? I think they picked up 700 points from winning a Rome Major. For them to get to the semifinals in a major was huge to them.
Yeah.
And then to do another semis here, they are now in the top 9 ranking as pairings here. While Leal scored, or not scored, sorry, but he went from ranked number 30 individually to 21.
Yeah.
And Guerrero climbed from 21 to 17.
9 positions in 2 tournaments is
these are big jumps for them.
And I think we should watch out for it because they're really young.
Yeah.
As we said last episode, they have a lot of chemistry because they have been playing together since they were like kids literally. They are world champions in the minors category, I think. So they're
definitely ones to watch out for. I think, right? Like it's just such a I don't know.
Especially Javi Leal, I feel like he's very he's very good, obviously, but he also demands a lot of himself, and he feels like one of those warrior type of players. He's kind of like a Lebrón, isn't like he's very competitive, gets upset at himself when he misses. Very demanding on himself, I think, which is good.
I think he's also like quite a big character on the court as well. You know what I mean? Like he kind of leaves it all out there. Someone described him as the Duracell bunny, who's just like full of literally energy, like running around like an absolute madman, and just like pulling off some of the most impressive stuff. So it's a pairing one to watch, and we wanted to touch on them and just on their sort of like almost explosive entry
on their rise as well. Hopefully,
which is deep into. Not deep into the season, but we're almost at halfway point here, and for a new pairing to sprout up like this, like it is interesting. I will preface this as well, just before we go into the semifinals. Like, I do feel like during the summer break, which we're about to enter, is also we're going to get another wave of like movements with pairings and splits and stuff like that, which happens almost way too much. I feel like and it doesn't seem like people give each other a chance. I think another one, just roughly, grazing over them, but Alonso and Ortega split up so fast, right? And they didn't give it a chance. So it's just like one of those gut feelings where they just don't feel the right energy there, and they just move on. And
a lot of people talk about it, how how paddle, especially like I guess in more recent years, has turned into a very like fast pace. Like if you don't get results immediately, you switch pairs. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Like, do you maybe need to give a bit more time?
I think so.
To try and find that chemistry, to try and see the training,
or to build on it at least.
To build on it a little bit,
Like, how fast can they tell that they're just like, this is not going to work even in 3 months' time from now, right? Like,
feels like you're planting crops and like abandoning them before you can like
exactly
get the fruits from them.
Yeah, exactly. You have to nurture it a little bit like that. But yeah, we'll see anyway. There's nothing's changed yet, but I do feel like that happened last year as well. So we'll keep an eye out for that. See. But I think we should probably get into our semifinals.
Let's get into our first juicy bit.
Such a juicy bit. On the court, off the court.
Yeah.
There was a lot building up to this. I don't know which one you want to tackle first. I can't help but...
Let's get into the juicy one.
Yeah, speak about the drama here a little bit.
We got the sixth game match between Galán and Lebrón, the two, whatever, like the villains of paddle, the rivals, the big,
the toxic exes, almost like
exactly.
It's there's a lot of like preconceived ideas and motivations here. Partly because maybe LeBron went on like live TV to like air out his...
So let's start with that and how it's obviously Galán Lebrón is always a very interesting matchup, and it's always loaded with a lot of subtext, not just there's a lot of personal and emotional drama.
Like it wasn't guaranteed that we'd get a Stupa LeBron Chingaland semi-final.
Yeah,
and also the fact that. LeBron
it was prefaced by all this.
Yeah, exactly. So for those that don't know, LeBron, I don't watch Spanish TV, right? But like there's clips going around, and all of a sudden you see LeBron on like a talk show host.
It was basically it's this show that I'll say it really quickly to give some context. Josep Pedrerol is he's a sports journalist from Spain.
Yeah.
He runs this really famous football kind of channel show, TV show that's basically hardcore Madrid supporters,
right? And
they just shit on Barca all the time, right? And it's very chaotic. There's loads of characters. It's like a show. It's like some sort of theater.
Like
improv. It's very funny. It's crazy. But they are all serious, but they're all crazy as well. And this dude's one of the main. He's like the host of this, right?
Right.
And he's a very controversial sports journalist in Spain.
Yeah.
He loves the tea. He loves the drama, the gossip. He tries to get the juicy clips. That's his thing.
Kind of respect that, yeah.
So he invited LeBron on his he does this talk show called El Cafelito, which means the little coffee.
Right,
which is he basically gets a coffee with someone like a athlete and they chat about stuff, right?
Right.
Invited LeBron to this to this show, and he was basically it was LeBron's outing or his first official confessions in front of the cameras about the whole split up with Galán, what happened.
It was like a telenovela,
literally. It's like a reality show, where they invite them over like a Love Island star, and they're like, "What happened?"
Dude, it felt like we were watching Love Island. Shows can we go chat by the pool? Yeah, and it's fucking Juan LeBron, who's obviously goes into his split, right, and.
From his point
of view, which is something that we haven't necessarily heard, right? Because he's definitely painted himself as the villain in paddle. I think that's fair to say.
And Galán has painted himself as the good guy in that breakup.
That seems like the people who we're literally watching it right now with Stupa, where people are literally how can Stupa tolerate this behavior?
Yeah.
And generally people go, LeBron's always going to be LeBron. He's an absolute nightmare, but he's also amazing at paddle.
Yeah,
that's the trade-off here.
Yeah.
And obviously these guys split last year, or not last year, 2 years ago now.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
And obviously they won 4 titles in a row. They were number 1 in the world.
Yeah, they the thing is, Galán Lebrón marked they were the Coello Tapia.
Yes.
Before Coello and Tapia were a thing. They marked an era in paddle where they were just unbeatable. This new wave of paddle where you've got 2 super aggressive players on the same team, all that stuff. Galán Lebrón were the OGs.
Yeah, maybe it's not the best analogy, but it is if Coello and Tapia split up right now, and they also had a massive argument or something like that. Everyone would be like, "What the fuck just happened?" But it was
the nature of the split up, the whole drama that happened in Doha,
exactly,
all that stuff.
And
if you guys remember,
just war flashbacks, oh my gosh. But yeah, obviously that was kind of our perception of it as well. So when Juan LeBron went on the show, and this guy's asking him all the right questions really to get it out of him, and LeBron was there just willing to air it out, right? And he said he felt almost resentful and left behind a little bit. From Galán.
He said that he felt his side of the story hadn't been told yet, and how LeBron had a really bad elbow injury.
Yeah.
He got like tennis elbow from all the smashing and stuff, right? And he said how Galán never called him once during his recovery, didn't really care about him. And how, like how in the World Cup, he was the one that asked Galán in front of everyone.
Yeah.
He added to play together. He said, "I think we should play together for this game."
Yeah, which I can imagine that moment in the locker room type of things. Like, let's do it, and everyone's like, "Oh shit!" Like they can do it.
He was basically trying to save.
He said he regretted, actually, right? I'm pretty sure he said he regretted that he sort of extended that branch to Galán to say, "Let's play together."
Yeah,
and now it's all kind of coming out a little bit, right? Where obviously LeBron's holding on to this a little bit like a grudge, right? And he's, it's hurt him as well. We'll look at LeBron with some empathy as well. But like, you guys are like adults at the same time.
Basically, all of this happened like before Valladolid.
Yes.
So this semis, which is anytime Galán and Lebrón face each other, it's it's big news. It's the game that everyone wants to see. It's the rivalry that everyone loves. But it was like even more loaded. Yeah. And it was played in Spain, where people know about the show, where most of the people there have watched. They're aware of the drama. Yeah,
exactly. There was a lot of drama as well.
Loads of Galán fans, loads of Lebrón fans, like proper like Spanish fans. You know. So. Yeah, it was
There was a great point as well when the host of the show was like naming other players, and he was like Coello, and LeBron had to give off the bat of his head like what he thinks of them. He's like Coello, mastermind, Tapia, like incredible
talent. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And he goes Galán, he goes a person. Like what is wrong with you, man?
Yeah, and even Pedrerol is like, what? Come on. Yeah. What do you mean? And he's like, yeah, person. He's like, we don't have any relationship. Like I'm just gonna his attribute, his adjective for me to describe him as a person.
As a person, right? So
just say he's got good volleys, man.
Yeah, like, exactly. He's like great player. Like
it gets to a point where it's like, look, I get it, and the drama's like kind of fun and everything, but like, guys, get over it.
Exactly. So
you split up, shake hands. Yeah, you're gonna be playing against each other for a long time. This is a bit ridiculous, right? Exactly. Now. I'm sorry, but
right. So the TV show, all these comments made. Now it's all down to fate if they'll meet in the semifinals of Valladolid, and they do.
And they do for this is the 6th time they're playing against each other, Galán versus Lebrón. Galán taking 5 out of those 6
He's dominated.
Wins. And this time, finally,
LeBron
got the win over Galán.
Exactly.
With definitely the game, not just because of the drama and the loaded environment that it had, but just purely from a paddle point of view, it was also a very interesting, exciting, and
3
good
sets.
Game.
Should we get into it?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. I mean, what were your initial vibes, thoughts? Like, what did you feel? What did you think?
I mean, watching Galán kind of drop off a little bit, but you got to give props to Chingo for his smashes. I'll be honest. Like, just seeing him smash on these courts were just like absolutely insane, right? But I was trying to figure out while I was watching, and I was like, there's something going on here where they're having a tough time, going up against Stupa Lebrón, right? And trying to figure out what that was. It was a little bit like, is it just because they're not lobbing and they're playing flat? Are they, they're 2 up against the net? Like what really went on was kind of hard to figure out, because we were also in this like weird-ish realm of, style of paddle that's getting played on these courts, right? So it was very neck and neck, super tight at the beginning, but then it would get towards like the end of the sets towards the tie break, right? The first set went, 7-6 to Galán, super, super tight, right? Mm-hmm. But I think going into the second set, there was a drop off from Galán because
I think the game was basically or mostly like sort of decided on, unfortunately, Chingo's errors.
Right.
They were clearly picking on Chingo because Galán in a court like this, it's like the same that happened with Coello. We'll talk about it when we talk about the finals, but as someone with volleys as good as Galán, who's probably got the best volley in the entire world, especially backhand. It's in a court like this. Don't make Galán volley because he will bury every single ball. It's super fast. It will pop off the glass. Yeah, and if it comes with the
top spin,
not the top spin,
backspin.
Backspin.
There we go.
What's it called? The Slice. If it
There we go,
comes very sliced with power, it will just ping off the wall. Very difficult to defend.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Chingo made a lot of unforced errors, which is not very on brand for Chingo. Unfortunately, I think that's where most of the match was decided. We had sort of standard Valladolid P2 first set where it would just decided on a tie break because there was no breaks. And then
good recovery from Chingolan to pick up that win in the first set there, I think, right? Because Stupa Lebrón were leading it, and then
exactly. Then they just got that first set. I thought it was game over there because I thought Lebrón was just going to go down.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But then they brought it back by breaking Lebrón Stupa. They broke the second set.
Let's get the stats up here.
Getting it 6-4, and then another tie break in the third set. The third set was crazy.
Yeah, the third set was
they got the break right off the bat. So the first game they broke Stupa Lebrón.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it mattered most, they were like 5-3 up. Stupa Lebrón, yeah. They were 5-3 up.
Yeah.
Chingo went 5-5, 6-5.
Yeah, fuck.
Then they brought it back 6-6.
Yeah.
And then so it was super push and pull.
It's like
very
one
exciting
one for one type of thing,
the
right?
people were going crazy.
Yeah, it's true, actually.
It was super exciting. I think there were some crucial mistakes from both Galán and Chingotto in the tiebreak. The tiebreak of the last set wasn't even close. It was like they got it like 7-2 or something.
Yeah, no, it was ridiculous though. Like it was actually like that's when it was like, game over. They were in like 5-1, right, in the tiebreak at the end, and it was just like, I've never seen Chingo and Galán actually get pressed like that much.
Yeah.
To a point where it's like, okay, they gave up before the tiebreak. You know what I mean? So that's such a shame. But we did get an incredible game that was full of drama, as we were saying before, and I think that adds like a lot of like excitement for us. I think also another exciting moment, if we jump even towards the end of the game, and I think it's the handshake that people were sat at the edge of their seat kind of being like, okay, now what's this going to be like? And we kind of got, I don't know about you, I don't know if anyone else did it, but I think maybe because we're a little bit paddle nerds, we were rewinding.
I rewinded it 10 times to see, I wanted to see like exactly
frame by frame
what the like physical contact was between Galán and Lebrón after the game. Galán just gave him like a
it was weird.
He just gave him like, I guess, like a well played.
Yeah.
They did the minimal handshake contact. It was just like a
0.5 second eye contact.
Yeah. Then just like, well played. And then
you know what I mean?
Yeah, you could tell Galán wasn't happy.
Like,
he was pissed.
Shit, man.
Yeah, so that was crazy.
I think just because of all of this stuff we talked about, LeBron, at the going on doing a bit of a press tour on this shit, and this was the game that they beat them as well. It was like the cherry on top, and it was
crazy,
like, okay, you've done it 5 times now. Surely you can do it one more, and they just couldn't do it. So, you know what? I think it was something crazy, like the amount of days between. We just said it was like, okay, they played 5 times against each other.
Yeah,
but that's over like. A huge time period as well.
Yeah.
They split up a good few years ago, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, they actually did it, and it was probably the juiciest game of the tournament. I'll give it
Definitely,
that. Like you'll hear us talk about the finals.
And I think from like a paddle point of view,
it
was also like very interesting. I think we saw again Lebrón, Stupa as well, especially Lebrón at the highest level.
Yeah,
I think he played an incredible match. Lebrón and Stupa as a pairing also playing really well. They had that extra advantage of having 2 really powerful smashes compared to obviously Chingo's, which isn't as good. The key was using the chiquitas and the angles the whole tournament was like this, but this game also, we'll talk about the final as well, was similar. It was about transitions to the net. It was about, you can't lob because it's impossible.
It's very limited.
So chiquitas to the net, or trying to play like a softer volley so we can walk to the net, and then from there try and find spaces, try and find angles, or lob from the volleys, which they did a lot to Chingo with the fast lob. It was either chiquita or the fast lob. It was the only way to like try and gain the net, basically, And
I mean that's that's what made the game feel like it was a bit like not stuck in the mud, but it was just like, okay, this is how the style of play is. It's and Stupa and LeBron both sort of lifted each other up. I will say though, like I would feel as LeBron's partner being so nervous that like every point played, won or lost, is such like a crucial changes the surface of the game a little bit because, even we saw it, I think it was in like round 16, there was a crazy moment where...
against Garrido Gil.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though they won the first set after the tiebreak, it popped
Man,
off.
LeBron's such an asshole, though. Like,
let's talk about that.
We had the translation up somewhere, but like we can ring it off our head, right? Like they won that first set. It was super close.
It was 4-1.
Yes.
And so this is in the tiebreak, so 6-6, 4-1 to Lebrón Stupa. LeBron made like two really bad mistakes leading to a 4-3. They end up winning that tiebreak, but even after the win, LeBron just storms off the court and in the benches.
Bro, he's a yapper, bro. He yaps.
He was like, how can you... It's 4-1. He said, you're playing for the rivals.
Exactly.
How can you make two mistakes? We're 4-1 up, playing for the rivals. Stupa's obviously like, what the fuck are you talking about? Dude, relax.
Chucks his racket on the ground and walks off, dude. And
goes to the bathroom. Yeah. LeBron stays with Poccioni alone.
Chewing Poccioni's ear off, being like, you tell him, man, you have the balls. And it's just like, bro, like...
You have to tell him stuff as well, not only me.
Who do you think you are? Like,
and then even the coach said...
Yeah, what did the coach say?
The coach said, like, it was something along the lines of, like, which he needs... Someone needs to tell LeBron. He was like, dude... You're beyond help.
Yeah, exactly.
He basically said, like,
there's no helping you.
There's no helping you anymore. Yeah. Like, you're crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Like, how can you... And then we also add, which was really great from Stupa, goes to the bathroom, super annoyed, comes back. As soon as he comes back, he, like, maybe broke the mirror in the bathroom or something.
That's what I'm saying,
as soon as he comes back, shakes his hand, immediately he's like, all right, let's go. And he comes back with the good vibes, being like, the only way I'm gonna...
The patience is incredible, man, because I don't know how it does it, because, it's a bit of a joke, but...
Dude,
like,
you won the set.
Yeah, it's like,
relax,
go, chill.
How is this gonna help...
Exactly.
For the second set, like, just, you won it. Okay, there were mistakes.
Yeah.
Thankfully, you won. If you'd lost, I'd be like, okay, fair enough. Be angry.
Yeah.
Still inexcusable, but whatever.
Their whole dynamic just screams red flags to me, though, really, because
toxic relationship, literally.
It's literally that. It's genuinely like, it's very interesting to see Stupa navigate like this environment. Seeing Stupa walk off, come back and hug LeBron after he just like dogged him like that is almost too much. And it's like, I made this joke earlier that it's like Stupa has Stockholm syndrome, where he's like, from the outside we can all see that like, this is not, a transactional, it doesn't feel very like transactional in terms of like good vibes, energy, lifting each other up.
No.
And it's like, it genuinely feels like Stupa's eating a lot of the shit. Okay, granted, sometimes he does make mistakes, but the reaction from that is very intense.
How many, like, everyone makes mistakes.
Yeah.
How many pairings are there playing? Like, hundreds.
Exactly.
Everyone makes mistakes. Coello makes mistakes. Chingo makes mistakes. Chingo had a terrible semis. Did you see at any single point Galán being like...
Exactly.
Oh, well, because it was, to be honest, and Lebrón Stupa saw that. They did pick on Chingo because he wasn't going through a good moment. He was netting many returns on serve, missing his lob straight to the glass. He was having a terrible time. Galán, all he did was like try and lift him up.
Exactly.
Come on, let's go. If they lose, they lose, dude. Like, whatever. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man.
And then it's almost this thing where Stupa has to like publicly say, he's like, no, the vibes are great here in the camp, guys. Like, we know what we're doing. Like, I'm like, who's telling you to say this? It's like, what, are you good, bro? Are you actually good?
Is LeBron hired someone to
literally,
like?
I'm like, everyone from the outside said, you're like, this is not okay.
It's like a toxic relationship. Literally.
He's like, it's good. We're good, guys.
It's like telling your best friend, you have to tell him like, dude, your partner, your girlfriend, abusive, boyfriend is like, you're in. It's like an intervention. You're in an abusive relationship.
Dude, we need a Stupa.
No, they're so nice.
Yeah, it's, like, no, it's my fault. It's my fault. It's me. It's me.
It's me.
And it's like, bro.
I just push him over the edge sometimes. Literally. Like, I know he's got a bit of a temper, but like,
it's like, bro, you're getting dogged on right now on live TV, man. Like, it's too much. I mean, even it goes back to this interview we were talking about, right? Yeah. Like, and LeBron talks about his he's a winner, man, in his mind, right? Yeah. And I understand that. I understand from like a competitive level that this is like elite athlete mindset, right? Like it's a win or nothing.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's almost like another layer here of just like unnecessary bullshit.
Very interesting point, because and he did say in this interview as well. He said, "I know un poco cabroncete." Un poco cabroncete means like, I know I'm a bit of an asshole.
Yeah, dude.
But he said that, but never with like a bad intention. All I want is like
to win,
to get the best out of my partner, whatever. But I know that your intentions aren't bad. I know that you're trying to win, and it's your frustration of not being able to win as much as you'd like that leads you to behave this way. However, it's interesting. Then in a press conference right after, I don't know if it was the semis or the finals, LeBron also got a bit annoyed at the reporters, and he was like, do you guys know, are you like professional athletes?
Yeah, okay,
do you know? And one was like, yeah, I played rugby like he was like, okay, and
played rugby in year 9.
What is it like? What is the life of a professional athlete?
Yeah.
Super competitive, frustrating, right? It's like, it's really difficult. Does anyone know what it takes to get to number one? Like, and then, which is a fair point. And then I went on the comments and someone said, which I was like, that's actually such a good response to that. Look at the number ones we have now.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at the Golden Boys. Do you see them? They are number one.
Yeah.
They are number one because they're incredibly talented and good, but also because they are, dude, every time Tapia makes a mistake,
exactly,
Coello immediately says, me encanta.
Exactly.
Like, I love it. I love that you tried that shot and that you missed it. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever does he try and bring him down. Says they might have some heated moments in the benches.
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes. But, dude, and they're number one by far.
Yeah.
And they're like, and they're dominating
maybe
2024, 2025. Like, there's your LeBron. There's your example.
Yeah, exactly. That's
don't say
a perfect
what
example.
does it take to be number one.
That's low-key like boomer mentality, though. It's like you gotta eat nails and cut off your fingers to actually be number one. It's like, dude, there's literally like young guys here. Okay, LeBron, you're not that much older, but like they're doing it and they're doing it.
There's a 23-year-old LeBron. You're like nearly 30.
Yeah.
There's a 23-year-old Coello who's got the mentality that's miles ahead of yours.
Yeah.
And he is number one, and he treats everyone with respect, rivals and partners.
Yeah.
And he's there because, ask him maybe what it takes to be number one. And he'll tell you like, well, a lot of training and hard work, which LeBron does, I'm sure. I'm not saying he doesn't. I'm sure LeBron trains more than anyone else. But there's a big aspect of a sport like tennis, like paddle, these racket sports that 60% of it is mentality and emotion and being able to deal with frustration and your partner.
And that he just seems like a shotgun that just goes off, man. And it's just like there's no keeping it cool. So, they can say and, post online, say all these things that, the vibes between him and Stupa are great. But, I think just, and they are professional athletes. But I don't know if they can actually last that whole season, man. Especially if it continues like this. Look, they made it to a finals. That's great. Yeah. Let's see how close they get
and
to
they
that
are
again.
playing. If we look at paddle, they're playing incredible.
Great.
And I think Lebrón is at one of his highest levels that he's been in a long time.
Yeah.
So is Stupa. But I mean, again, it's not just about how you play. It's
about how you interact, how you grow.
It's about
as
the
a team.
chemistry. It's about off the court as well. You know, there's a lot of things. However, I will say, this has been a very cool conversation, by the way. Let us know what you guys think.
I think it's a good one.
Because it's an interesting debate. I will say, though, to finish, even though, LeBron has all his faults and blah, blah, whatever, obviously, I think I believe what LeBron said in the interview. I don't think he's lying.
No.
I think the way maybe he views his opinion might be a bit warped.
About on winning or?
Well, no, about on the Galán issue, like how he wasn't contacted by Galán when he had his injury, which, to be fair, that's a bit like rude from Galán.
Yeah.
Other stuff about like the World Cup and whatever. I will say, I do think that maybe Galán isn't the
as
angel
good as we see.
that I think maybe he plays it a bit for the cameras.
Yeah.
But I think maybe doesn't excuse LeBron's behavior at all. Yeah. Doesn't excuse it at all. But I think maybe Galán isn't as
I mean,
good of a good boy.
Yeah, I see. There's more to there's always two sides to the story, right? And I think if that's what LeBron needed to do and go on live TV instead of being an adult and confronting him in person and being like, hey mate, like you did this, let's like hash this out. Like really did it get to that point where he's like, let me just fucking chat shit about you on live TV and like, add fuel to the fire. I feel like none of that helped. Maybe it made LeBron feel better on the inside, but long term, like, that's not going to change anything between him and Galán. It's going to make it worse, right? So that the hopes and dreams of LeBron and Galán reuniting at some point, man, after this shit, it's even further away now. Not that it was actually going to happen.
And he even said it in the interview.
Yeah.
It was like the journalist asked him like, "Is there any chance?" He was like, I don't think so. He was like, I think it's impossible. Like, and he would never want to.
Sitting in the hot seat after saying there's like 40 minutes of slander, dude. And he goes, will you play again? He's like, no, not after this, man. Like, it's too much. But like, that was, this is all the drama, man. We almost did 50-50 on, the actual game versus all the drama outside.
But it's also important.
It is interesting. These are, some of the biggest faces of paddle, and, really it is all part of it. So, obviously we haven't even touched the finals yet, which we should get into. Yeah.
Before we get into the women's final, let's just go through the semi-final stats. Again, like, clear, like what was clinical was the break points. We have 2 out of 3 for Stupa Lebrón and 1 out of 3 for Galán Chingotto. Just that one extra gave them that advantage.
Yeah, honestly.
We've got 59 smashes versus 48. That is a big difference. 11 more smashes for Stupa Lebrón, which echoes what we were saying before, how even though Chingo could smash in this tournament, they could still, if you did it well, you could still lob him on the volley, especially with that fast lob.
I mean, that's really the only strat really they
which gave them a few more winners, 62 winners 58. After 58. And then we've got more unforced errors by Chingalan. Not by just 2. 2 more unforced errors. Yeah, so
absolutely insane.
There you go. We'll pop all the stats.
I mean, it just reinforces really the advantages here in a tournament like this is if you get a one break point, you're pretty much
break points, as we've seen, are going to be were the deciding factor mostly in all these games.
Definitely. And there we have it. Let's get into the women's final now.
Let's do it. So we had Sánchez José María versus Fernández González.
A game we've seen a few times now, right? And I think the narrative there echoes still a little bit that for some reason, which we'll talk about now, Fernández and González have a much harder time trying to pick apart Sánchez and José María than Triay and Delfi, right?
Yeah.
Which, our first thought goes like, okay, they were both teammates that split over. Gemma Triay played with Claudia Fernández. Delfi Brea played with Bea Gonzalez. That matchup always seems to be a lot closer in contention, in competitiveness, and obviously...
in confidence as well.
In confidence too, right?
How you feel the players are... González and Fernández, how they go into the match feels different.
Exactly. And it's something that we see where, players, both, we won't just talk about Claudia Fernández. I think in this particular tournament, it really wasn't a good one for Claudia Fernández in the final because she just dropped off. But that's, going back to the inconsistencies of, going up against Sánchez and José María, they just haven't, they haven't figured them out. Obviously, they're...
And I think they go in with more respect.
Yes.
I think maybe with being ex-rivals and knowing each other so well as partners, as rivals, because it's that chess game that we always talk about, right?
Yeah.
I think they go in with more confidence, being like, I know how Gemma plays.
Yes.
I know how Delfi plays as well. So...
they have more
they know
ammunition.
Sánchez José María, I think they're a bit intimidated by the big number ones.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can them being that. Like a lot younger and less experienced than them, especially Claudia, So I feel like they make themselves a bit smaller than they should.
I mean, that scoreline of the game, Sánchez José María won 6-4, 7-5.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we almost got a tiebreak in the last second set, but to be honest, like in a similar, we were speaking about the court conditions, the speed of the court, obviously that translates over to the women's game as well. Very neck and neck, but at the same time, you're seeing moments of like huge unforced errors. If we, pull up the stats from
especially
the women's game, which we'll do now, but god damn, this is something that, we've said in the last episode as well, but it can get a little bit frustrating, which is very harsh to say because we love her. But Claudia Fernández, she can be a little frustrating to watch sometimes because, not because we don't, we just feel for her a little bit and we know that she can perform at a higher level. But these moments where, for example, in the finals here, I think most bajadas that Claudia Fernández hit off the bag went straight to the net. And it's this thing where I asked you, I was like, look, if you take one of your shots in paddle that maybe you don't say it's your best shot, whatever, and you try and pull it off in the game and it goes straight to the net, what is the approach here? Is like,
this isn't working.
This isn't working, or do I hit it again until I find that sweet spot? And it really feels like Claudia Fernandez took the second option, but it never came round.
Yeah.
And it was just like, again, just go for the lob. Just go for the lob, please. Obviously, Jose Maria has a pretty mean smash, as well as Ari, actually. Ari was just like on fire that game. And I felt sorry a little bit for Bea Gonzalez as well. She's kind of, it's a team at the end of the day. But I
feel like Claudia has, if she has a good match, she has a good match because sometimes she's on fire. If she doesn't, she doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
She can't really sort of bring it back or start.
The consistency.
If she starts good, she'll finish good.
Yeah.
If she starts weaker, then it's generally a bad game throughout.
Yeah.
She's consistent in that sense, which is like good and bad at the same.
Inconsistent consistency.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which is that sounds like a cool band name. But I think if we look into the stats here, right? That's the semifinals.
We do not have this.
I'll filibuster while Hugh finds the stats. I've linked them in the dog. This is just another example that Ari Sanchez, Jose Maria are still so rooted in their dominance. Really, Gemma. Obviously Delfi Brea fell out of the tournament with an injury. Mm-hmm. We were kind of in the middle. We're in the middle of this sort of flip-flop between, the number one and number twos.
Yeah. And
we didn't get it. But look, now we've got the stats up over here.
Yeah.
It's always down to the break points, I think. Obviously, we'll flash it up as well.
Yeah.
But, Sanchez Jose Maria got two break points, 5
Which
opportunities.
is all they needed for the 7-5 and the 6-4.
We said it earlier, is that you have one break point on your opponents and you're much, that gap of actually and the advantage that you get. It's like night and day, right? So they got 2, had 5 opportunities. If you look at Fernandez and Gonzalez, okay, they had 4 opportunities and couldn't convert 1. So then you look at the smashes. We have 45
versus 36.
So less aggressive.
I mean, winners 57 to 53, which is not crazy, and then 18 to 22. Still, out of these stats, the most telling one is the break points. Is that they played how they had to play Sanchez Jose Maria when it mattered most.
Exactly.
Which is a big thing in this sport,
I mean, just taking that first set 6-4 as well.
Yeah. And it's what you were saying before as well. This is actually an interesting thing to talk about, is this tournament felt like, and Galán was saying it as well on the benches, it's a bit confusing. Whoever was serving, I feel like had the pressure. Because it was so easy to it was so difficult to break.
Yeah.
And kind of easy to not be broken. Like, to win your serve was kind of, easy. There were not a lot of breaks. You had the pressure on while you were serving to not be broken.
Right. I see. Okay.
Which is usually kind of the other way around. Being like having to defend that serve
opportunity
basically.
Where that.
So the pressure was like reversed.
Yeah, you could lose the game for yourself if you have like a bad serve essentially, or you get you weren't acing them or whatever. But I do think genuinely for both finals, it was pretty lackluster. Just as we've said, style of paddle. This is what we got for the finals. Obviously, every tournament we get of the season isn't going to be 100% certified banger. Like a few of the other tournaments we've had this season. But, that's our personal opinion. You guys can share yours and think, look, I love the fast courts. I love the tough conditions. I think it, pushes our players to kind of newer levels, and we get a variation here. But really, a little bit disappointing. 6-4, 7-5. That's the women's final there.
Sanchez Jose Maria take it.
And, that, not necessarily, but that kind of echoes onto the men's final, which I think we should get into now.
Okay, so the men's final.
We're here.
The Golden Boys versus Lebrón Stupa.
Very interesting pairing.
Start us off, Connor.
What I mean?
Yeah.
Lebrón Stupa beat Galán, as we spoke about in our previous segment here. The start of the game was like, okay, look, if you want to carry on your aggressive nature and your tenacity and bring it in and go against the Golden Boys, let's go. First, it's 5-3 in the first set.
Dude, I thought it was going to be a walk in the park for Coello and Tapia.
Me too.
Before we talk about the final, the road to the final for Coello and Tapia, I'm not saying it was easy, it wasn't like, 6-0, 6-0. No, it was just 2 sets throughout. But it's just the feeling I got was that they weren't trying that hard Coello and Tapia were kind of like...
They were on like a low power mode.
Yeah, but they were still...
They were winning.
Insane.
Yeah.
And incredible. And it felt like, I don't know, it was just like their general demeanor, the way they carried themselves, the way they played. It's not that they didn't give a shit about anything, but just to me it felt like they didn't have to try that hard.
No, I don't.
Not even against...
You know what? I don't think they do. You know what I mean? And maybe, you know, this is, you know, as a spectator or a fan watching these guys, we've seen them push themselves and have that sort of intensity.
And they are super competitive.
Exactly.
And when they have to show up, they do. But
and this is a tournament where they're like, well, yeah, you know, Tapia's brushing the ball and it's still flying out the court.
Crazy.
You know what I mean?
Even though the smashes were flying for everyone was like going for full power. You could see them. And when they didn't, like, for example, Stupa does that sometimes, the ball didn't really... It wasn't they didn't bring it back to their court.
Yeah.
I swear, like, Tapia was smashing from behind the line. Yeah. You could see him like getting ready. He saw the ball coming down.
He was like checking the time.
Yeah. He was like
drying his hand.
You know, like flexes his knees a little bit, and then he just went like.
Yeah.
He wasn't like you could feel that he wasn't like going for full power, but his technique.
It's crazy.
Is so amazing and perfect that without much power in courts conditions like these, he can.
It pings off the wall and just flies, man.
Ridiculous.
And you know. Yeah, you know, I just kind of mentioned, you know, this point of the game where it was 5-3 Stupa Lebrón against Coello Tapia in the first set.
Yeah, and it looked like I was like, oh damn, okay.
And then I think it was like one bad shot from Lebrón, and it was like boom, the game shifts. You know, for the first, you know, it feels like it's not the first time, but really it was an opportunity where, you know, Stupa could potentially act like Lebrón a little bit and go, yo, what the fuck, man? Like, what is going on here? What's happening? And oh my God, you know, and it must have been at the end of the first set, but we hear Coello and Tapia's coach, you know, in moments like this, they're, you know, okay, at that point they won the first set, but it's kind of like, where does the strategy come from the coach? What is the coach going to say to motivate these players, to tell them to do the right things, to analyze strategically what Stupa and Lebrón are doing and what their weakness is. And the camera goes to Coello and Tapia, and the coach is like, Tapia, where's the magic, man? We need the magic, please.
He's like strategy goes out the window. He's like, just do whatever you do.
Tapia just do Tapia things, man. Like,
and he did, bro.
And they both like switched on and they just went, okay, let's actually like lock in now to convert 5-3 to 7-5.
They won 4 games in a row, breaking them twice in a row.
Like, what?
Mental. They just locked in.
Like, it's too much. You know what we were saying when we were like, they weren't even trying, and then they come back on the court at 5-3. All right, let's start playing.
But it doesn't feel like it's a massive effort for them. They're just like, okay, we aren't like, okay, whatever. We're 5-3 down. Let's do it. Yeah. Like, come on, let's do what we usually do. And
they locked in. I think Lebrón also kind of crashed out a little bit and kind of just, gave up essentially, man. I think after that, that's such a grueling position to be in as well, especially, you know, if you know that heat that Lebrón can bring and put it onto Stupa, you know, you got to think what's going on inside his head as well, man, because it's probably just as intense and, you know, toxic maybe that's not the right word, but competitive is probably a better word. And yeah, man, look, they went 7-5 at the end of the first set.
And then the second set was kind of like
6-4.
6-4, which isn't like a complete walkover, but it was kind of like a throwaway from Lebrón and Stupa. You could feel like they weren't there mentally.
Exactly.
They weren't playing their best. And Lebrón and Stupa just it was like an opposite sort of balance. Lebrón and Coello, Tapia just were rising, more confident. Yeah. Lebrón and Stupa were going down. But yeah, I mean, from a paddle point of view, it was kind of like the strategy was pretty clear, same as the semis that we were just talking about.
Right.
Same way Galán is incredible at the net, so is Coello.
Yeah.
And if you had to pick, obviously it's not like you've got like 2 very difficult options, but out of the 2, you can't lob, even though obviously Tapia's smash is amazing, because of Coello's height and physicality.
My gosh.
Lobbing him was impossible in this. So the lobs were either the ones they were on Tapia, and also they were just playing, they completely fridged Coello, or they tried to fridge Coello. Because Tapia, even though he's amazing at the net, he's not as good as Coello at the net. Yeah. Coello at the net will just...
Right. He's good suffocating them, man. His arms are wrapped around the whole court.
The slice technique he has, completely burying the balls. The chancletazo as well. The slap volleys he has.
Flip-flop shot.
So they tried. Their only option was picking on Tapia, and that's when I think I have to highlight. I don't know what you think, but for me, this finals, defensively, the Golden Boys, especially Tapia.
Yeah.
Defensively, absolute beast. No, we already knew that, but like usually they're not defending that much.
They don't need. They don't need to.
But
when
because
they do,
of the court conditions and stuff, and the breaking of serves that was so difficult.
Yeah.
And being picked on, Tapia had to defend many volleys. They were getting low. They were picking up, scooping up these balls, coming up with insane shots.
Just taking rows of flat shots because, if they're avoiding getting lobbed as well and just kind of taking it and, blocking with the slice and, trying to basically stick Stupa and Lebrón in the back corners and, eventually, hit a faster shot that just kills the ball out.
Yeah.
It's I think it's something in their wheelhouse that we probably don't appreciate enough, right? From Coello and Tapia.
Usually it doesn't make them shine.
Yeah.
I think Coello that's more from Coello's side. I think defensively Coello, it's what Cardonna's missing to be 100%. Like Coello, kind of, obviously
even
when I say this.
Even that pairing is, together.
It's what separates Kohlberger from Coello Tapia, which is kind of like the same thing. It's like a 2.0 version of that.
They need the next evolution of they
suffocate you at the net. Yeah. They're really good with the overheads, like Coello and Tapia. But what Coello and Tapia have is that magic defensively, and
it's
how good
insane.
They are off the glass, being pressed and pressed and pressed.
Like going up against two players that can just push back every ball.
And that was the difference. Boccioni, the Lebrón Stupa's coach, was also being like, guys, you got to be more aggressive at the net with your volleys. You got to slice them more, give it more power, which is something that the Golden Boys were doing just because that's what they always do. And in these court conditions, it was really difficult for Lebrón and Stupa to defend.
Yeah.
And even though obviously Lebrón and Stupa aren't bad at volleying, but even though those volleys that weren't amazing, but they were still very difficult to defend, Coello and Tapia were just
nailing it.
Yeah. It was.
It's I'm not surprised at all, but at the same time, I think they were also hungry for the victory as well to win in Valladolid for Coello. I will say this as well. Lebrón did take a little trip to the physio at the same time at the beginning of the second set.
It in the lower back, right?
Lower back injury, which fair enough in these conditions at these speeds. If that's what you're feeling, that's what you're feeling. But to take this next set 6-4, and that's the end of the finals. We didn't get a third set final, unfortunately.
No.
That's why we kind of crowned the men's semi-final of Stupa Lebrón versus Galán.
Semi-comfortably for Coello and Tapia, even though the first set was a bit iffy. I mean, they went from 5-3 to 7-5.
In a nutshell, Coello and Tapia started off slow, right? And then all of a sudden they just switched their beautiful brains on and they went, okay, now we're going to play really good.
I don't even know if you saw, maybe we can get a clip and put it here for you guys, but the as you said, like when Gus Prato was like, Tapia, we need the magic.
Dude.
And he did bring it with like the resources he has. And what he pulled off his like bag of tricks was those lobs that were just like when they just ping it up so that they can't smash it. It's
too high.
One of the only possible lobs in this court to play, right? Tapia played it off the quick bounce. Did you see that? Instead of letting it bounce or trying to hit it, he let it bounce, and as soon as it bounced, he like played a chiquita off a super high lob. I was like,
that's insane. I don't know how he does that.
They weren't expecting it, and it was super effective as well.
That's
Stuff
incredible.
Like that, where I was like,
how do you time that?
What are you doing?
No, it's insane. Their connection with like timing and everything like that is
mental,
just like sixth sense. But it's almost like not surprising that these guys can pull it out their hat. Obviously, their previous tournament, they lost in the finals, right? But let's not forget that they are the Golden Boys for a reason. And they picked up an easy P2 win at this tournament. They humbled Lebrón and Stupa a little bit as well. Shows kind of the gap between them as well. It's
and I think another thing that they did really, really well, just from also paddle point of view, now that I'm thinking, was like obviously their synchronicity, how in sync the Golden Boys are versus Lebrón and Stupa.
Yeah,
they cover every single angle because of the nature of the paddle that had to be played in this tournament. That was very much volley to volley, clashing at the net. Loads of shots that aren't lobs that you're trying to find at angles, either down the middle, the sides. how they covered each other's space, Coello and Tapia, was really impressive.
Oh my gosh.
Especially the middle as well. They were really good at that.
Yeah.
And the amount of shots that they just like kind of get off each other.
I think,
off their bodies, stuff like that, which Lebrón and Stupa didn't do as well.
No.
They were confused in the middle sometimes
where to put
on who to go for that ball, you know.
When you have two dangerous opponents like that, it's kind of like fuck, man, holy shit. But when it is this sort of like flat playing style, it is kind of that's not the technical aspect of it though. It's trying to get your opponents to move as much as they can and then find that gap, so your teammate can either just like set it up for you and you can kill them, and if they're in an awkward spot. But that's just light work for Coello and Tapia really at the end of the day, and it's just like holy shit. Yeah.
The only thing I would say that I observed also tactical point of view for all those paddle nerds out there, such as ourselves, was Lebrón. He really tried, and it was quite effective quite a few times. He played a beautiful like angled Chiquita to Coello's backhand.
Right.
Sort of cross court.
Yeah.
To try and, when he was playing it off the glass, Lebrón, instead of trying to go down the middle or play to Tapia or maybe try and do a lob down the line, he played a really beautiful, aesthetically pleasing Chiquita with a massive angle to Coello's backhand. And that worked for him quite a few times. Didn't manage to work as well as he would have liked to, but it just shows, I think, LeBron's paddle IQ.
Yeah,
his emotional IQ might not be as high. His EQ might be a bit low, but his IQ is quite high in terms of knowing how to play intelligently on the court.
Yeah, to pick out
very impressive.
Your opponent's potential like biggest weakness, right? Try for Coello's biggest weakness.
And try and find a Coello's weakness in Coello. It's
like his backhand's fucking incredible, man. Like holy shit. But that is like the psychological battle, I guess, that's happening on the court and trying to pick them apart. Yeah. But unfortunately, it wasn't good enough, and the Golden Boys took home another victory.
Yeah.
Galán went out early as well, and we got a fun final. But I think we need a little bit of variation.
Golden Boys take it once again. Yeah,
exactly, and they're there. They're the Golden Boys for a reason, and they're cooler than ever. Seems like they aren't performing at their highest percentage rate, right? Yeah. But do they really need to? I think that kind of echoes like how dominant they are at the moment, and if they can really kind of channel that, and we'll see. We're almost in that summer break again where they could just like shut off all of their family connections and just go train and come back even stronger like last year. That sounds even more terrifying to be honest. But Valladolid was like a legendary tournament this year. Very hot, very fast. Yeah. We like that. A lot of action. A lot of drama as well, which a lot of drama,
but it's good as well at the same time.
But there we go, guys. We're at the end of our episode here.
Let us know what you thought of the Valladolid.
Are we just complaining a lot? Are you guys also sick of like these kind of fast court? Like I like a fast court, but like this was also just like too much. Man.
Too much. I think
the signifier is if Chingo's smashing like that and from the back, that's when you know, okay, there we got to change something or slow it down. But yeah, we'll see what. Obviously, we said we can't cover Bordeaux, but we'll see what that comes. We'll always keep an eye out for it.
We'll keep an eye out, and also stay tuned. Even though there might not be a Bordeaux review, we might bring you some other content that we have planned.
Definitely.
So keep an eye out for that. Let us know your thoughts on this tournament.
Lovely.
What you thought, what you're thinking of the podcast.
Yeah.
As always, we're always open to hearing your opinions.
Please do.
Things you'd like us to talk about, do,
and
content,
please subscribe as well. That does help us.
Subscribe, like as well. Likes are very important. Instagram, YouTube, our Reels, TikTok, anything you can to help out the Off-Court Boys would be highly appreciated.
I like that, the Off-Court Boys.
So we'll see you on the next one.
Yes. We'll be in contact.
Thank you for joining.
And if you want our more content, we will be posting on Instagram over the break anyway. So follow us on there as well.
Sweet short form.
There we go. We've plugged everything.
Yeah.
All right. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Bye bye.